So I'll start that off with announcements of things that are coming up in the city of Huntington Beach and Sunset Beach. So we have the 9th annual Barefoot Ball to support the Bolsa Chica Conservancy. I was there yesterday and oh wow, I mean that was money well spent. If you haven't been in there, it is beautiful, great place to take kids, Girl Scout, Boy Scout troops, just amazing what they've done. Amazing what they've done in there. Of course, the dog's he's been sleeping all this time is going to bark now. But anyway, that's coming up on August 26th. Unfortunately, I will be out of town.
What is that now?
It is the Barefoot Ball, and it is to support the Bolsa Chica Conservancy. So that is on August 26th, and they are always looking for donations. You can buy your tickets online, but if you haven't been by there, right, you know, PCH and Warner, right across from the fire station, across from the yacht club, right there, that little building. It's now bigger. It's now like twice as big. Stop in and take a look. It's pretty amazing. And then on September 24th, we have our annual Sunset Beach Chili Cook-Off, and that is put on by the Sunset Beach Women's Club, who I am a member of. It's only $10. It's a ton of fun. We have a live band. We have big prizes. I mean, the donations to this, we do a live auction, but we've got a paddleboard, and a lot of times we get a kayak, and just great donations from the town. And then we'll have a lot of vendor booths there, a lot of local will be there. So that's a lot of fun, and it helps us raise money for local scholarships. We've helped put a lot of kids through, help them with their, and even adults. Adults looking to get a higher education, they can submit an application as well. And all the applications are at the local high schools. And we love doing that. We haven't been able to for 2 years. So funds have been really low, and we hope that will be a success. So if you have something to donate to either of these things for raffle items or live auctions, please let me know. We'll be happy to pick them up. And the annual toy drive that we do, we collected 10,000 toys last year. So I'm starting early this year. It's We Believe in Giving, and there are big boxes at the following places to drop new unwrapped toys in: Old World Village in the deli, the vitamin shop on Warner next to 24-Hour Fitness in that little strip mall, they have one. Kathy Mays in the park has one. In Sunset Beach, Sunset Lounge Bottoms Up, which used to be Bricks, there's a box in there. And in Costa Mesa, at the Keller Williams office in Costa Mesa at 3100 Bristol, Suite 150 in that office park, there's one there. We have 4 boxes left, so if anybody has a business and they would allow us to put a box there to collect toys, we will boost your business and tell people to go by and see your business and drop off a toy. And anytime you're in the store, if you can just, if there's toys where you're shopping, please grab an extra toy and take it to one of those boxes. We would really appreciate it. I am Cheryl Coleman with Keller Williams Realty. Thank you for joining us. I know a lot of you join us every month. I think we have some new people tonight because they're all interested in not only what's going on in the city, but find out about this 1031 exchange alternative. Stacy from my team, Stacy, give a wave. She's on with us. My co-host Paula has the best financial planner you'll ever meet, but taking care of my money for a long time. So she is with me. And I think the rest of my team is showing houses because I don't see them on here. So, and David Urton's going to talk to us about the 1031 exchange and financial planning as well. And Natalie's going to give us an update on the city. And with that, Natalie, why don't you tell us what's going on with the city of Huntington Beach and Sunset Beach?
Absolutely. So hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. It's great to see everyone. Thank you so much, Cheryl. It's been a busy, very, very busy summer. You talked a lot about some different events that are coming up that are more related to Sunset Beach. And, the Vans US Open of Surf is starting up July 30th through August 7th. So expect that there will be a ton of wonderful activity around Huntington Beach Pier. We're excited to have Vans back. There will be a sports festival, including surf, skateboarding, and BMX competition, as well as a full calendar of other activities as well. We even have a dialogue and conversation happening at the Art Center that Vans is also coordinating with the city, because they just really wanted it to be kind of this all-inclusive, a wonderful event. So I definitely encourage everybody to check that out. Also, let's see, we are going to have, a new group of surfing honorees is going to be inducted into the Surfing Walk of Fame on Thursday, August 4th at 10 by Jax and the Surfers Hall of Fame at Huntington Surf and Sport on Friday, August 5th at 9 a.m. And also then we have the Blessing of the Waves coming up on September 11th, followed by the International Surfing Association World Surfing Games on September 17th to 24th. And then finally, what everyone normally is looking forward to is the 3-day Pacific Air Show starting on September 30th. So we have just a whole lot of things, plus the concerts in the park that are happening every Sunday. So there's just so many things happening around town. Obviously, we had a great 4th of July holiday as well. Fortunately, it went off, I think, without a hitch. Everybody had a lot of fun. It was great to see so many people back out along the parade route. And also in the evening for fireworks. As you all know, if you're living in the area, you're probably have still been hearing fireworks sometimes. So hopefully those will end. I know our animals appreciate the end of those. So the PD does their best on that. So, so that's kind of just all the really exciting and fun stuff as well. I'm trying to think what else to chat about. There's so many exciting things happening. We have our junior guards going on right now. I think that Chief Haberly said that we have 1,400 junior guards this year at the city beach. So there's just, it's a really amazing program. It's continued on from decades, really. So that's really excited too. Along with that, we've been working on, as a city, really working on getting more youth involvement. So the Fire Explorers and also the Police Explorers programs, where they're really welcoming teens and youth back in to that, where they can hopefully, one, just get engaged with the community and with the city, but also potentially see if these are careers that they're interested in. And if they are, kind of move along up into those careers really directly from there. So that's pretty exciting. Let's see, what else do we have going on here?
What's the completion date of the new walkways at the beach?
The Bluff Park. Well, I'll tell you when it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be I think actually the beginning of June.
Yeah.
So it's definitely behind. However, I will tell you, there was an update on our Instagram for the city this week saying that most of the grass was done being put in. I went by yesterday and there were plants being put in. We have had some concerns from residents given the drought situation. Obviously this was all planned before the statewide drought restrictions. So we are the desire or the decision, to put the grass in, really, it's just really the best substrate for that much walking. So we're going to be watering that a little more than we should. And then once it's done for, I think, 30 days, then we're going to go to the restricted amount. But that should be done, I'd say, within the next week or two, completely. I know I saw the big container still there. I imagine that will probably be going next, but I'm really excited to see how beautiful it's going to look, along with the railing that was replaced. Now we have the walkway and the pedestrian versus bike lane. I would love for you, if you're down there, to continue to give feedback, one, on hopefully how beautiful it looks, but two, the usability of that walkway, pedestrian path and bicycle path, because it was widened and the goal is for it to be used and separated. However, I did start hearing feedback from people that people are still using whatever part of the walkway or bikeway they feel like. So, this is a challenge just to get people to kind of follow the rules, but we want to make sure that people are as safe as possible. So please do, if you're down there and have whether a positive or negative experience, let us know. I know we've got recommendations, certainly with the e-bikes as well, to put more signage. I know we actually camped down at Bolsa Chica in our trailer over this last week, and going down the state beach path, I did see more miles per hour signs up that let you know how fast you're going. So I think that those might be an opportunity, but really people have to care, and there's not really enough police out there to enforce that. But maybe we can do some, kind of concentrated enforcement efforts.
Yeah, I'm down there every weekend on my e-bike, and even though those pathways aren't officially open yet, people seem to, including myself, been using them for the last few weeks already.
Yeah, and I think it's fine to be using the pathway. I don't think we want to not encourage people, because the paths themselves, I think, are pretty much done. It's more of the landscaping that hasn't been completed. Yeah, but again, if you're down there regularly, like if you have feedback, we welcome it. We just want to keep trying to make it better and better. Other than that, we just this last council meeting, just some things that are coming up. We did have a review of our budget, not the whole budget. The whole budget presentation was done about a month ago, but there were some people, especially on social media, that had some concerns about a particular part of it. So we had our CFO go back and review that part, kind of re-explain everything. So I do encourage everybody. It was a much shorter, truncated version of that. It's really interesting to see how the monies are spent in the city and also how we're doing. Some of the folks out on social media had thought that we might have a deficit, and we in fact have a surplus. So we wanted it to be clarified, and I believe that our CFO did that, which was great. So please, all of our city council meetings are on Channel 3, but they're also recorded and available on our website too. If you ever have a particular issue that you're interested in, please do go check that out. As far as the upcoming election, outside of there will be 4 council openings, so do pay attention to those races. I think the actual full filings will have to be out in the next 3 weeks or so. So you'll be able to learn more about candidates at that time. But I, of course, encourage people to just talk to candidates, ask them really good questions. I do encourage you to ask them about what they would like to do versus what they don't like. So that is my recommendation when you're talking to people. But in addition to the council races, there's also going to be some ballot measures on there. There will be 3, actually 4. Some of them are related to the charter. The first one, I don't have everything in front of me right now, but the first one is primarily related to syntax and really kind of updating terms and things like that in the charter, and a couple of other things too. One thing is I had gotten a request via email a little while back about bathrooms over at one of our parks over here. And when I reached out to Public Works about it, just to understand, we have porta potties there, what could go into maybe having a real bathroom there. I found out that actually, if we wanted to install a bathroom, it would have to go on the ballot as a ballot measure. And I thought that was a little bit interesting because one didn't exist already. So that has actually been added to that first ballot measure on the charter, where if it's related to bathrooms in a public space, we could actually create a bathroom without having to bring it to the ballot. So that's, to me, it seems like a reasonable thing to do. Let's see. So look at those. There's 3 ballot measures there. A 4th one we just talked about. Actually, the 3rd one is about conflicts of interests, and really with the client, which is the city council and the city attorney. It's really trying to make sure that right now there's kind of conflicting language there. And so we're essentially trying to take out the conflicting language. So that way for our council, future councils, future city attorneys, frankly, I don't see it as political at all, that everything is very clear and that there aren't any discrepancies. So there's no political challenges there. So if you have questions about that, please do feel free to reach out to me or anybody else. I know everyone will have different opinions, but I'm happy to talk about that as well. And then the final thing that came up at this last city council meeting was on cannabis. And so if you remember back in June for the primary, there was a ballot measure on cannabis. It's essentially the same ballot measure that's going to come up again in November. The one in June needed to pass by 67%, basically 2/3, and it was at like 66, I believe. So it just barely missed passing for the general election. And by the way, that was not to make cannabis legal per se, but if it does become legal in Huntington Beach, it was to determine what the tax would be. And it's essentially looking at 0 to 6%, which gives the city flexibility in case, we assume there will be significant revenues, but there could also be costs. We want to make sure that we cover any costs that are involved as well. So that's essentially what that tax is there for. And it's a range to be able to give flexibility with regards to that. So that will be there. But this time in the general election, it requires a majority vote, not a 2/3 vote. So that's a little bit of the difference there. And now the monies, revenue from that would go towards the general fund instead of before it was going to go to specific things. And I'm open to answering any questions. I don't know
Natalie.
how much more time I have. Yeah.
No, Larry Stuppy.
Hi, Larry. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there.
Good.
Got a message from a friend about that attorney issue. You're saying
Yes.
you're trying to take the attorney voting for the public off the house, or that's what he was trying to say, is that we'll no longer be able to vote for the attorney.
No, so I will say that part of the charter, so we had a charter commission review, and the charter review commission's recommendation was that they had about 16 different recommendations, by the way, and we only ended up with a couple of ballot measures. One of the recommendations was that we were to go and put before the voters, by the way, we can't make that decision, but to put before the voters whether or not the city attorney, the city clerk, and the treasurer should be appointed or elected positions. So that was something that we did discuss. I have my own opinions about that. We are one of the very few cities in Orange County, I think one of two, that does have an elected city attorney. I personally think that it adds some challenges to the way the city runs. However, just to let you know, we did not add that to one of the ballot measures. So that will not be on the ballot for this coming election at all. Not for the city attorney, the city clerk, or the treasurer. So all of those things stay the same. The only thing that's on there with regards to the city attorney is really to clarify the client, attorney-client relationship. Right now, there's actually two different sections of the charter that speak to this differently. They were done at two different times. One says the city attorney, and I'm not looking at this directly, so pardon me if it's not exactly perfect, but essentially the city attorney controls all legal matters for the city. And then the other one says that the legislative body, which is the city council, ultimately does that. The challenge comes when, if there is a conflict of interest with regards to the city attorney or the city attorney's office, at this point, depending upon how you read the charter, the city attorney could still run all of that, any action or investigation or just anything to do with that, where really the professional standards of an attorney should require them to recuse themselves. And essentially, though, the client for the city attorney is the legislative body. It's not the whole mass of 200,000 people in the city of Huntington Beach. The city of Huntington Beach elects their legislative body to make decisions for them, and that changes regularly. And so we essentially are the client, and that's my position. That's most people that I speak to's position, but that is up for the people of the city of Huntington Beach to decide if that's a position that they'd like to take, or if they'd like to clarify that. But per your question, Larry, the actual voting of whether or not the city attorney will be elected or appointed is not on the ballot.
Thank you for clarifying.
Sure. Sorry for the long-winded version of the clarification. Any other questions? That's a good question.
Holly, you had a question on helicopters?
Actually, I did. I'm in Upper Sea Cliff, and we have had helicopters going overhead continually the last 2 days. And I was wondering, Natalie, are they testing out possibly new helicopters for the city?
I don't know, Paula, if that's happening right now. I do know that prior to the crash and everything that happened before, we had approved the purchase of new helicopters and changing them out. I know that there had been delays, so it's quite possible that that's what's happening, but I don't know that that's what's happening right now for sure.
So I don't know if anyone else heard it. It was a little bit today, a lot yesterday, and I think the day before also.
So I can text the chief like right now to find out specifically what they were doing. Was it more so just really noisy, or what was the
Oh yeah, I was just, you know what? I was just curious.
Okay.
It wasn't a problem.
Okay.
I'm used to the helicopter. I'm over, I'm probably a mile away from the helipad.
Yeah.
But it just seemed excessive, and with the shark steering, I didn't know if something was going on with that, or the high surf or whatever. So it was just kind of being a little nosy.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you, but that's a good point. My son was actually out of Bolsa Chica doing the state junior guard program when they shut down the beach. So that was a little nerve wracking. Yeah.
So they found there were sharks swimming.
3 surfers this is from the newspaper, to be honest with you. 3 surfers had seen, I think what they thought was like a pretty large, like a mature great white shark. And so they let somebody know. I think it was like, I could be wrong on the size. I think it was like 12 to 14 feet or something like that. So it wasn't a juvenile, which are more typical, because I think they feed on, the stingrays and stuff that are normally there. But these more mature shark is a little bit of a different situation. So yeah, they shut it down for the day, but just for a few hours. And I haven't heard any more about it. So hopefully that did the trick, just out of an abundance of caution. So.
Anybody else have any questions for Natalie?
I'm here. If you do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Larry, have you been using the path around the park and around the lake?
I did use it, and I had a beautiful picture of one of the ducks with the babies. I call them farkles. Because the mother is all black and the babies are red, blues, whites, and everything else. You remember the Farkle family from
Yes.
Rowan and Martin Laugh-In?
I do.
So I'm saying these babies are all Farkles.
That's
Yeah, I used it once, and now I've gotten some complaints or comments from people. Look out there because the birds are nesting above it.
Yeah.
And so they're getting a lot of droppings on there from people.
You
But
got to
I've only been
walk
out
really fast.
Yeah, I know. I just tell people to close their mouth. Do not look up and close your mouth and just go straight ahead.
I walked it this morning, and there was 7 baby ducks with the mom, but they were in the storm drain, and those huge fish were in the storm drain too. And there's all the ducks, and all of a sudden something comes up and is wiggling, and I'm like, what is that? Gigantic fish that are in there. So.
Well, one other thing, since we're talking about the park really quickly, Shipley Nature Center has its cool summer nights. So it's each of these nights opens at 4:30 and closes at dusk. So it's the 23rd. It looks like it's Saturdays, the 30th, the 6th, 13th, 20th, and the 27th. If you go to shipleynature.org, you can find out all about the different programs. There's lots of different things from presentations to performances. And just to walking the trails later in the afternoon, which is great. Shipley.
What are those dates again?
They were, so it's on the website, but it's July 23rd, which is this weekend. So the 30th, August 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th.
Good, thank you.
Evening?
Yes, it says 4:30 until 7:30. So it's 4:30 to dusk.
Okay, I'm getting some beautiful pictures on the other side by the library, including some ibis. You ever seen the ibis?
I don't know.
It is one of the most beautiful birds you ever want to see. The body of the bird feathers are blue, reds, and everything. It's just a beautiful bird.
Wow. Well, I'll have to take a look. I love it over there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bird watchers in the park.
Yeah, it's actually part of the migratory pathway for the Audubon Society. Actually has it as one of those migratory pathways. So the things that you learn.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, and a lot of people don't even know there's a lake there, but the Central Park.
What's your email, Natalie? I'll send you a
They're
picture.
really nice.
I'll put my email in the chat. Is that okay, Larry?
Yeah, but I usually don't get it written out in time.
Oh, well,
I'll I'll send it to you, Larry. I get your email
Okay.
all the time. so.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And on that note, you know, anybody, if you have any questions or comments, concerns, please do feel free to email me directly. I'd be happy to meet up, answer any questions. And also a lot of the times when people email, I don't always know the answer, but my son keeps sending me requests for games, sorry. I'll find out the answer and get it up the chain also. And then that way I can know more myself as well. I'm always happy to do that. So
Can you put your email address in the chat?
I think I did, but let me double check. I did.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely.
It's there. Her first name, last name at surfcityhb.org. So.
Yeah.
Thank you, Natalie. We always appreciate you coming on and giving us an update and telling us what's going on in our wonderful city of Huntington Beach. And
Absolutely.
And
And if you
guys,
ever
take
have any,
advantage.
if you ever had any questions before I come also that you want me to focus on, please let me know that too. That way I can make sure.
Or let me know, because she always checks in with me about a week early to find out what we need. So, but we haven't had, any complaints lately, which is nice. Everybody's enjoying the summer and really get over to Central Park because it is so nice. The lake's so nice, the pathway, the Kathy Mae's restaurant there. Just take advantage of what's right by you, everybody.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Natalie. So before we get to Dave, I just want to remind everybody one of the things that we do. My team and I sell real estate. We sell a lot of real estate around here, but we have a senior service. And the reason I want to bring this up is I was over at someone's house, some 80-year-olds that were moving, and somebody had copied my marketing exactly, but wasn't there helping them. So, and they were, using them to sell their home. Well, so what we do and what we really truly do for seniors is we help them pack. We take things to Salvation Army for them and get the receipts. We take things to the dump for them, the trash, the stuff that has to go. And we do all of that at no charge. If they're moving to assisted living, we even move them for free. So we do so many special things for our seniors. I am fortunate because my husband is a retired truck driver and licensed to drive a moving truck. One of our 7 children is a professional personal trainer in the morning, but he works for me in the afternoon. The kid can lift a couch with one hand. So we're able, as a family and my team, able to do these things. And we stage homes for free because stage homes always sell about 20% more. So we own all the furniture, we bring that in. So we truly do all these things at no charge. And when you see other people that put that in their marketing and don't do it, it just really bothers me, especially for the seniors. So please keep that in mind. If we help everybody, but we truly do extras for our seniors in this town. So I wanted to keep that in mind. Yes, the market is changing. People ask about the real estate market. It's still good. It's still a good time to sell, but it's finally a good time to buy too. Yes, interest rates went up a little bit, but there's still really good rates. But there's more on the market. We're not having the insane bidding wars that we were having. Homes, it's getting to be more of a normal market, which I actually like. So if you were trying to buy a home and you got bid out and gave up, get back out there. We have a beautiful craftsman home in Westminster that is absolutely gorgeous, 6 bedrooms, 2 baths, and behind it, and we just finished making that glorious, and behind it is a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, super modern apartment. There are 2 garages that could be ADUs. So if you're looking for income property or you are a craftsman lover, please call me so we can get you over to see that home. And everything else we have is either in escrow or in the midst of construction right now. We have some in Huntington Beach that we're fixing up to put on the market. Paula, why don't you tell us quickly what's going on with our...
Well, things that were a little bit better the last few days. The stock market has been volatile, as everybody knows. Pretty much people are giving back some of the earnings that they have. The market this year is down about 20%. So if you open up your statement, expect it to see it down 20%, but don't forget, we had such good years. So you're probably giving back earnings as opposed to principal. We're hands-on with people. We change their portfolios as they need after we discuss it with them. So if you do have any concerns or you're just not getting the response possibly from the people that you're working with, or you're working on your own and now it's very hard to be objective, just give me a call and we can talk about things, or email me. It's not a time to panic, but it's a time to know it's cyclical. We hopefully will straighten out this year, but there's a lot of factors. There's the war going on. There's a lot of unrest. There's COVID scares. So it's kind of a perfect storm, and we've gotten through this before and we will get through it again. So thank you.
Thank you, Paula. So without further ado, I know a lot of you are on tonight to find out. A lot of people know about 1031 exchanges. Dave has a different spin on it, which I was fascinated when I sat down with him to hear this. I wanted to share it with all of you. So Dave Urton is with us tonight. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then if you need to share the screen, let me know, and
Okay.
that happen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dave Urton. I'm a financial advisor. I've been a financial advisor for 23 years. What I'll share a brochure with you folks here in just a couple minutes. It's a brochure that is often going to be used with a property, I'll call them a landlord that's really looking for different kind of exit strategies, if you will. For me, a lot of clients, obviously will have investments, but they also have, a few rental properties that they may have owned for, a decade, 2, or maybe even 3 decades. Obviously holding an asset that long and just outright selling it could be a bit on the painful side from a tax perspective. So, what do people do? If your tax pain is something that isn't really a consideration, then I guess you hold that asset. With that being said, I need to be fair and clear that I am not a CPA. I can't give tax advice, and I'm not an attorney. I can't give legal advice. I'm a financial advisor, and my opinions are obviously Dave Urton's. But what you typically will see is, people have owned rental properties for a very long time. Some people are really good at managing their own assets, and that's great. Some people aren't so wonderful at managing those assets, and they're not great at it for the simple fact that they just don't want to deal with the toilets, the tenants, and the trash. The not enjoyable parts of being a landlord. Nobody ever has a problem with finding out that asset that they bought in Orange County 20 years ago is, exponentially more than they bought it for. And nobody has problems accepting the rent checks, but it's the cons to it. So with that being said, I'm going to share a brochure. If you allow me to do that, Cheryl. The brochure is it's strictly a brochure from one of the institutions that we work with. The brochure is, or the company I should say, is Inland. Bear with me.
If you should be able to share the screen now, but you are also now the host. So you might get a little bell ring every now and then. People still try and get in the meeting this late, and you just have to let them in. So.
I've got all the power is what you're telling me, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have all the power.
All right.
We can give it back toward the end.
All right. Well, that's cool. And I've got kids outside this room and a wife, so I really only have power for a short period of time, to be fair. So, okay, folks, I'll cut the cracks here. The brochure, I'll point out to you, the company is Inland Private Capital Corporation. They are a very large corporation. I don't only do business with Inland. They just have a really nice, simple brochure, and that's why I'm using it. They would be a company that I would consider using as a portfolio, but not, you know, not always and never. That's hard to stand to say in life, right? So to say I would always use them, often I would. So utilizing a DST in a 1031 exchange, the acronym is Delaware Statutory Trust. The Delaware Statutory Trust simply is a trust that's established. That trust has parameters that are set. Now, of course, you know, as in life, we're given rules that we have to play within. I'm in the financial industry, and so it's very compliance heavy, as it should be. But the DST simply is going to state what the property can and cannot do. So, you know, you're not going to have a DST that buys, you know, let's say an asset that's half built, or an asset that has a huge amount of improvements. Typically within a DST structure, you're going to find a newer asset that does not have much in the foreseeable future in the way of maintenance. It's a very nice property, a very nice commercial property. And it's meant to be a newer, nicer property for a reason, because the thought would be if we don't have any huge capital improvements, that should help the property be stable, obviously. Scrolling, the 1031 exchange with using a Delaware statutory trust has absolutely all of the same rules that you'll find in a traditional 1031 exchange. So, you know, what's a very common error that a investor will make is the 45-day identification. You have to identify what you plan on purchasing 45 days or less from the close of your escrow of what you're selling. If you do not identify by 45 days or less, then you've got a problem. If you are not able to execute on what you've identified within that identification sheet at a qualified intermediary, that would also be a problem, because you've not closed on what's been identified. So those can be issues that, you know, an investor would absolutely want to make sure that they're treading water, you know, carefully, if you will, especially in a difficult real estate market when it's hard to close on real estate. And then, of course, the 180 days to close on that asset, like any traditional 1031 exchange. So I'm just scrolling through the brochure here. I'm sorry, I might be a little on the goofy side, but I am a big pitcher. I'm a big fan of pictures. People need a visual, and for me, I think this is a great visual. Looking at the page, that is a beautiful apartment. I don't care where it is in the United States, it's beautiful. It's new, and you know, if I was a young single person, I probably want to live in something that looks like that, right? So, you know, these are the type of assets that we're talking about. These are usually larger assets that individuals wouldn't be able to access with the amount of proceeds they have. Does that make sense? So, in theory, this property that we're looking at, this apartment building, it could be a $30 million apartment building. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but it's for conversation. Typically, people aren't going to buy a $30 million apartment building. Even if they have a lot of money, they're going to diversify that money and not buy such large individual assets. So the point here is, when we're looking at this beautiful apartment, you can invest with your proceeds. So if you're a local, we'll just say you're a local property landlord, and you're thinking, gee, I really don't care to deal with the property anymore. Or maybe I have one property out of 4 or 5 or 6, and that one property is maybe your headache property. Maybe it's the tenant, maybe it's a property, I don't know. You list that property, you sell that property, the proceeds would go to the qualified intermediary in a 1031 exchange to avoid capital gains, of course. The qualified intermediary would get instruction from us as to where your proceeds go. So your favorite real estate agent, Cheryl, lists your property in Costa Mesa. The proceeds of 1.7 million from your property in Costa Mesa go from escrow to a qualified intermediary, and then from the qualified intermediary, after obviously conversation with my client, we would position that 1.7 million or whatever the net proceeds are into, in my mind, several different DSTs. And why that is diversification. Why put all of your eggs in one basket? To me, you wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. So I wouldn't recommend it, right? Scrolling down, I'm going to answer something that is a common question is, if a client invests, they sell their local real estate, they invest, and these properties are purchased. These are fractional shares, of course, right? Because if you have 1.7 million and it's diversified into 3 or 4 different properties, then clearly your money doesn't buy all of the property. So you are owning fractional shares of that. So what it is simply is you own fractional shares of 4 different DSTs. You could have one property in each DST. Sometimes there's multiple properties in an individual DST. But the point being is you pick different sponsors, you would pick different sectors of the commercial real estate market. And then you would also pick, in my mind, these are just thinking out loud, you would pick different geographic areas. So, spreading out that risk as best as possible. Once the money is placed, it pays based on the lease terms of the properties within those DSTs. The lease pays the client on a monthly basis. There's no management required. That's kind of the beauty of it. It's, you're at a point where you're looking to maybe simplify in life, kind of downshift, if you will. Kind of like when you think about taking risk in life, when you're in your 20s and your 30s and maybe your 40s, you take more risk, or you're willing to take on more risk. And then as you gravitate towards retirement, or as you get a little more mature, you pare back that risk. So that would be something that is a similarity, I would say, within the DST mindset for the investor. This is an outpatient healthcare facility that we're looking at here in Utah. They're beautiful properties that obviously, would be quite a bit of money if any one person was to go buy something like that. I already had mentioned the 45-day identification and the 180 days to close on the property. Common misconception. People always ask for like kind. So if I sell my single family home in Huntington Beach, don't I have to buy something similar in nature? And the answer is no. And I say that chuckling because it's very common that people think that. The reality is that you need to exchange an investment or rental property for an investment or rental property, and it has to have that intent. As far as the 1031 exchange, and what you want to make sure you don't make a mistake on is, of course, how much you're reinvesting to make sure that you're doing it appropriately, of course. So my point would be is you would sell your local Huntington Beach or Costa Mesa single family home, and you would then, in theory, take portions of the proceeds and put it in different commercial properties within the United States. So that wouldn't be a similar like kind, but I know I'm going through a lot. Again, this is a company that I don't spend a lot of time on, but they do a lot of business. They happen to be the largest in the industry. You can see that they do multifamily, retail, office, healthcare, everything is pretty much everything. Very big. The DST has been around for just about 20 years. It's not for everybody. You have to be an accredited investor, which means that your net worth is over $1 million, excluding your primary home, which, to be fair, is probably not hard to do when we're talking Orange County property. I can't think of what I've missed. Cheryl, you've heard me talk about this a few times in discussions. Any thoughts or questions that you may have?
No, I do hear a lot from people that think it's got to be of like kind. So,
yeah.
And I don't know where they're getting that from. But and just so no one's mistaken, this is primary residence, your home in Huntington Beach. It would be, you have a home in Huntington Beach that you are earning income on renting it out. So you could sell that and invest in self-storage, which you don't have to do. And the biggest complaint that I get is I'm so tired of tenants, especially after COVID. I haven't been paid in 2 years. They took the money and they bought a new car and didn't pay me. And, it's just all these horror stories. So maybe just get into that a little deeper, that they can do that.
So, what I would say is if you are somebody that owns real estate and you're the individual that you want to transact, you want at some point you want to sell what you have and buy something else and improve upon it, then the DST is absolutely not a consideration, because you are kind of a professional within the real estate space and you're transacting. If that is not you, if you say, no, I don't want to pay tax, I don't want to deal with the toilets, attendants, and the trash, I don't want control. That's something that I think that people should think about, because I think that's different for everybody. You have some people that kind of identify being a landlord, and he or she is over at that property squirting down the driveway or the sidewalk, when nowadays we're in a drought, you're supposed to be sweeping it, right? But that's their thing. It's kind of like their hobby. I would say this isn't for you. If you are a person that says, this isn't my hobby, I would love to not deal with it. I would love to go on vacation and not think about my real estate.
And they're getting passive income as well.
Well, that's fair to say. Yes, they are. Of course. I mean, this isn't. You invest, and depending on the property and what it generates from income, it pays you a monthly amount that goes, of course, electronically into your bank account. So it's like as easy as can be, as far as if you're looking to, kind of maybe simplify your life and enjoy visiting, family that isn't in the same city. It's probably hard to get away from your rental properties. To me, it's definitely a shift. It's a shift, I think, mentally, because people have to think, gosh, I've owned this asset, and why people get this certain fondness for an asset or an investment, I don't know. That it's human nature, right? But I think when they think about it and they think, well, how much am I really enjoying owning that rental? That's something. I would also share with you that, a lot of times I think that parents, and I'm a parent of 3, I think that parents think, oh, my son or my daughter, they're going to take over my rental properties. And, the real truth is, you could probably Google the statistic, but there's a very high percentage of children or whomever's inheriting that property that they liquidated upon receiving it. It's not something that people hold and cherish for 20 or 30 years. It's an asset they appreciate, I would certainly hope. But it's not something that they're holding. So, this is, it's a nice transition vehicle. You don't have to, you're kicking a tax can. So, to maybe explain that for a second, Cheryl, if you were to do a transaction, and let's say you did this transaction 4 years ago, and we bought 4 different DSTs with your $1.7 million is what we were talking about. Well, you're having one of those assets right now, just because of all the volume that's been occurring. It seems like you probably have one that's liquidating about now. So however much we put in that one DST, okay, that would be a topic of conversation with the client. So I would say, Mrs. Schwartz, we put 25% of your 1.7 in this self-storage. How are you feeling from a cash perspective? Do you feel like you have enough money sitting in the bank for liquid needs, emergency needs? That's my job as a financial advisor, is to make sure that they have those needs met, right? Whether I'm their advisor for that purpose or not, it's still my job to make sure that they're not tying up their money, without having enough available proceeds. So let's say, for instance, Mrs. Schwartz says, I had a nice experience. I got my rent checks on time and never had a problem. I don't have any complaints. It was a lot better than dealing with tenants. So she can take that portion from that one property that has liquidated. She can take the portion of that and 1031 exchange it again if she so desires. She could pay taxes on it at that point in time, or any portion of it. So the nice thing is, I think, for that investor, is they kind of control a little bit of what they are and aren't doing from a tax perspective, if you will. Went down a little tangent there.
There is a question in the chat box. How much liquidity does the accredited investor need?
Why am I hesitating? Because that's kind of like an answer, like you can never have, in compliance's world, you can't have too much cash, right? Cash is king. We all have heard that. It's relative, right? Because, what's liquid? I would say, obviously, a bank account, money market, bank checking, if your CD is 6 months or less as far as maturity, those are liquid accounts. But, to be fair, a lot of people have a lot of money in stock and bond accounts that could be liquidated, that don't have any term or commitment to hold. So it's hard to say. Then you have some investment products that people invest in, and it holds them in that investment for 7 or 10 years or something. Well, that's not liquid because that's a big penalty. And so I guess to answer, I would say most of my clients probably have more than 2 or 250,000 in cash, as much as it pains me to say that, sitting in a bank. And it pains me because we all know that the bank isn't paying you anything. I'm not supposed to say that. Okay, they're not paying you much. So, yeah, as far as liquidity, it's more a matter of a different stroke for different folk. Some people have that need for a security blanket that's twice the next guy. But the real truth is, if somebody did a DST portfolio, they have money sitting in the bank. They often will have some investments somewhere. So it's not like that's their only rental. They probably have more than one rental too. But there's often assets, and I don't need control of any of those assets. I just need to know that they exist. So, I could do my job to make sure that this is suitable, it's appropriate for that client.
Any questions out there? Some people may, I think, like to get their hands on this brochure. I have one. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, I'd be happy to email it to you, Cheryl. One point that I don't bring up enough is, if let's say the DST to an investor, it made sense. The guy's Humpty Dumpty, right? He's not 100%. I would say that individual should use, or at least have a conversation with me and use me as a backup, or what I do as a backup. And so there needs to be conversation to that. But my point would be, is that if you're identifying hypothetically 3 different properties and you don't close on 3, you're probably paying that tax that you're not ecstatic about. Using what I do as your third option, and we would have to obviously have conversation because you would have to identify something specific, but even using the DST as that third option, it still gives you and your real estate, your favorite real estate agent, Cheryl here, it still gives you guys 2 at-bats to close on whatever really your heart desires. But if you can't close on, the first 2 at-bats, at least you had as a third, an uh-oh. At least that way it doesn't blow up you're paying tax. Obviously, the proceeds would go into one investment, but we would have to, talk about that. I just think that it's worth thinking about, because blowing up at 1031 because you can't close on one of 3 properties, that's.
So, and the timeline. So in a typical 1031 exchange, you have those 45 days to identify a property. And that has been a challenge in the past because these properties were selling so fast. In this case, you could just say I'm doing a DST, or do you have to specifically say it's going to be in the part's going to be in the medical, part's going to be in the storage parts? So how specific do you have to get on identifying within those 45 days? Or is going to take care of this for me?
Yeah, so no, Cheryl, great question. I appreciate that. So 2 parts to the answer to this question. Yes, you have to be specific when you're identifying. So for conversation, you've identified a property in Huntington Beach and Costa Mesa that you're hoping to close on for Mrs. Schwartz, right? But for the third option, we would pick this one specific, DST, and we would write in the information on the qualified intermediaries form, where it would be specific to, if you weren't closing on option 1 or 2, then the proceeds would go into that very specific DST. So we would have to have, myself and the client would have to have had a nice conversation to where everybody, you know, felt that that would make a good, you know, fallback, if you will. And here's the thing, if your client closes on property 1 or 2, you know, there's no cost to using me as a backup, other than the person's time, and, you know, but there's not a cost.
Rob put in the chat, use DST as a backup versus closing on some unwanted or canceled exchange property, which, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, let's face it, you know, I know people have scrambled, and that's sad when you think about it, because they've owned something that worked out and then they're scrambling because something had gone wrong, not in their favor, and you're just buying whatever you're buying. You know, that could be scary. So what I always ask people is, you know, the more time you can give me, the better off you're going to be, because the more time a client, or let's say a prospect, because you're not a client, we're talking about this, or we're considering this as a backup, so you're not my client. You know, we're going to go through a process. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, that's okay. It doesn't cost anything. But, you know, really more importantly, if a person doesn't get stuck paying, you know, some huge $150,000, $300,000 tax bill or something, you know, that's what matters at the end of the day. You know, that's pretty painful. I would rather not be used as you know, the backup, and well, thank goodness we used him instead of nothing. I'd rather it not be that way. Let's be realistic. I'd rather the client give me the amount of time, and I'm able to say, okay, Mrs. Schwartz, I, you know, have done my homework, and these are the ones that I like. These are the reasons why I like it. You know, these properties come and go. So, you know, it's not like it's constantly, something's now gone because it's filled up. It's been, you know, fully subscribed, and then something else is coming on. So it's like moving parts. So if the person shares what they're attempting to achieve, we have a better chance of having a good solution.
Any other questions for Dave? Anybody? You can put it in the chat, or you can speak up. Can you describe a scenario where one could totally avoid capital gains tax using a 1031 exchange versus deferring them, for example, through passing the asset to their heirs or gifting?
So, as Paula knows, our compliance people get geeked out when we talk about certain things like taxes, because I'm not a CPA, right? So I will answer your question, but first giving my disclaimer, and that is, I always suggest you talk to your own CPA or a client CPA or somebody that is truly a professional. But with that being said, I'm not giving advice. What I would suggest is, when you're looking at 1031 exchanges, it's a phrase, and I'm trying to think of a better way to say it, but you can 1031 exchange in theory continually until your demise, and upon your demise, there's a tax rule referred to as a step up in cost basis. So that's a very tax favorable treatment that exists, and they've talked about it for my entire adult life about doing away with it. Maybe someday they will, but it still exists. So that's the answer to your question. Theoretically, is you swap until you drop.
And a lot of people are not aware of the step up in cost basis, which truly is one of the best things out there. I have had clients that have said, oh, of course I'm gonna have to pay tax. And I'm like, no, you're not. Guess what? You know, so
Go call your CPA.
Yeah.
He or she's got good news for you, Mrs. Schwartz.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically, I would say when people go to DSTs, you're not looking to be a landlord for yourself anymore. And when one sells, unless they've had a bad experience, of course, when one liquidates, then the next consideration is, do you need cash or not? And it sounds like a crazy question, but people with high net worth often don't need cash. They need to disperse cash and put it to work more effectively. So to ask somebody that doesn't need cash, do you want more cash? And by the way, you'll be taxed on it if you take receipt of that money. Their feeling is usually, I had a good experience, so gee, why not keep going with it? Obviously, if somebody had a bad experience, that completely changes that, but that would be, and I'll tell you, I'm just going to offer something because as a professional, we all have different experiences in our job, and so sometimes you don't know. There's a different way of looking at something, right? So when you look at, like, let's say Cheryl's client, Mrs. Schwartz, invested $1.7 million in a portfolio of DSTs, and she put, her 2 grandkids that are in their mid-30s. Little sketchy, right? I don't know who these grandkids are, but all kidding aside, they're in their mid-30s, and a grandma giving away a huge asset at that stage might be a little shaky, right? So to that grandmother, she might look at the fact that this is a portfolio that we don't have a crystal ball, because we have no idea what will liquidate first or second or third or fourth, and what that would look like. We don't know. But to that grandmother, she's thinking, gee, these 2 grandkids are going to get a portion upon my demise. At least they're going to have to wait some time before they get their next sum of money. And then again, when property 2 sells, they get another sum, and then property 3, and then property 4. So it's staggered. And to some grandparents or parents that have kids they don't want to give a ton of cash to for their own reasons, it's a different way of looking at it. Sorry.
Thank you, Dave. And I put my cell number. You can text me if you need to get a hold of Dave or Natalie, or Paula or I, and my email address as well. That's one of my email addresses. That's the one that doesn't get 500 emails a day. So I get to that one a little quicker. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you educating us this evening. And we have a door prize. So I'm gonna make this really easy. The first person to type in how many days you have to identify a property. What is that magic number? Type it into the chat box. And the first person who does that, who is Rob, will win a $25 Starbucks card. So Rob, just text me your mailing address. You see my number up there, and I will mail that to you. And let's see. Next,
Is the Starbucks still open?
yeah, there's new ones going in all over the place.
I know it's a bad joke when the ones they're closing because of crime.
I mean, that's one thing that keeps popping up everywhere is Starbucks. So that's my safest gift certificate to get these days. You always find a Starbucks, and $25 at least gets you a cup of coffee.
One.
Yeah. The way things are going with inflation. Next month, Thursday, August 18th, we're going to talk about identity theft. Leanne Gilmore, who does a great job of talking about identity theft, which has been really rampant, especially since COVID. So tune into that. And then in September, this is we did this last year. This is really popular. Do you really own your home? So we're going to have Christy Rye, who's the vice president of Orange Coast Title. She's going to, everybody that's on will get a free title report because the county makes errors, but also there is fraud on title where people can just go in and change the title to a company to their name. So you all will, everybody that attends will get a free title report, which we will deliver to your home. And if there is something wrong with your title, we will also fix it for you for free. So that's our lineup for the next couple months. And thank you, everybody. We appreciate your support. If you know anybody looking to buy or sell real estate, please, please, please send them my way. If you need somebody to take care of your money, you've got Paula Hazard. If you need somebody to save you on capital gains tax, you've got Dave. And we always thank Natalie for giving us an update on what's going on in our wonderful city. So with that, I wish everybody a good night. We'll see you next month.
Send me Natalie's email.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay.
Cheryl,
Thank
send
you
me
all.
Natalie's email. Send Natalie's email.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good job.
Okay.
Am I going to see you tomorrow, Cheryl?
See me tomorrow. Yep.
Okay. See you then.
Okay.